social implications of the New Age Inquisition. Attempting to label persons or personifications, characters or caricatures, satires, within the functions of your current society loses value one more than one society is introduced to the equation. What is normal to one is crazy to another. What is crazy to one is normal to yet another. Thus and therefore, the entire proceedings of psychology fails at that very notion. Just destroyed psychology in a minute. The ability for coping mechanisms and expression sounds like the struggle that is imposed by the current society versus the being. The non-being has nothing to fear, nothing to lose, and nothing to gain. So there is no game to play. There's no winners, there's no losers. What you do is alienate your peoples with such methodologies. You alienate yourselves and you alienate others. And of course what you're going to get is truly insane people that just break. What improvements has modern psychology in the Western world brought forth into fruition? What fruits of their labors have they had besides patching together symptoms lists and falsely identifying approximately 90% of individuals with medication and pharmaceutical chemical concierges based entirely from pseudoscience perspective from Egypt, and the belief that chemicals can make one immortal. I just destroyed the foundation of psychology and pharmaceutica in another 2 minutes, and expressed its social implications. However, when a person is effectively trained and taught, trained is the same as programmed, to think and identify anything that is quote-unquote abnormal and label it, that itself is insanity. That is attempting to define the undefinable. And it borders on the concepts of fascism. The implications should be self-explanatory to anyone who is actually scholarly. You know what street smart really comes to be is environmental awareness. And in environmental awareness from the Eastern philosophical view, you either are a product of your environment which would be a victim. A user of your environment, which would be a survivor. Or a creator of your environment, which has no subjective term that I'm aware of in English. When you create your environment, when you see a problem and actually go about fixing it, you're actually living the real American dream at that point. The very foundation of this country was based on the premise of the people, for the people, by the people. So when you actually go about putting yourself on the line and making change happen, even if you have to rattle their cages a little bit to make that change happen, break their molds before they even set in them. Then you are making improvements. You are the American dream at that point. You are the environment. And then you will see that these concepts of being ruled by your environment or by other people's opinions or expectations is all subjective illusion. It bears no fruits. What you're trying to fit into what, and what is that to fit? I do not understand this concept. Fit in. If I have a pair of pants that don't fit, I throw them out. Or I have to wear a belt. Is this the same equatable? And that's social science boiled down within a few minutes. This is effectively what people spend 4, 5, 6 years, sometimes all the way up to 8, 9, or 10, learning in colleges and universities to come to these basic understandings. But it's just the introduction. The thing that you learn by the time you're out of college is the introduction I begin with. What you think is advanced, I see as simple. We truly are opposites when it comes to this. I've found very few in between. And because they are labeled away and cast aside because they don't fit in. Well, if they don't fit in the pants, get them in a pair of pants that fits them, using the equatable from the last paragraph. It's one thing I love about German reasoning. It has to come back around full circle. Otherwise, it's not a complete thought. It's just a fucking line that goes out in the middle of nowhere. That's why American science will ultimately fail itself. Its entire way of looking at things will fail. For instance, I do not use a hypothesis and test. Instead, I isolate variables and their interactions and allow the picture to draw itself from those interactions. There is no theory, only application, experimentation, and relatability. So it is all relative. The end of Western psychology and science and all thought concierges in under 10 minutes. One has to begin to wonder what has become of the Western world in the last 50, 60 years? If one cannot be free to think, then how will new ideas be blossomed or even planted? How will they grow? How will they give fruit? The most effective scientific methodology is the process of elimination. Until what you are left with cannot be destroyed, cannot be reasoned against. This is the refining process of an idea. Socrates, eat your heart out. I believe they call it Archimedes' edge, but I'm horrible with names. Oh, the unfortunate side of this is that effectively I've bridged 4 or 5, maybe even 6 different scientific fields in under 12 minutes. Reality check currently is, it's getting cold. And a coffee is about due. Otherwise I'm probably just gonna say, hey, why do I need to be awake? There's nothing I can do to get a real job in the meantime. You know, that's accepting of reality for the time being at least. You gotta make it day to day somehow. And since I refuse to steal from people, there's just no other options other than goodwill hunting, effectively. Or going out there and using psychological warfare. In other words, annoying the fuck out of people until say, here, get out of here. Alright, thank you. It worked. But you know, if people are just trying to explain it away as, oh no, there goes that crazy guy, then they miss the whole point. And then I have to get a megaphone, a soapbox, signs, or just go out and make something so crazy that I could face terroristic charges. So in the meantime, and mind you, I'm still using that tactic too. In the meantime, that's why I make these videos. It's just simply to put it out there. It doesn't matter if it's 20 years later down the road. Someone finds the information and finds it useful. It's simply for archival purposes. I'm not out there trying to get famous or anything. Not really trying to get notoriety, but in the end, creating my own notoriety. So, that is about the purpose of this concierge. Take it easy, YouTube.